Welcome to the Meet Melbourne Science, the fifth webinar in a series of Meet Melbourne webinars that we are hosting across May and June that cover all of our undergraduate and postgraduate courses. I'm Eddie Oates and I'm the Manager of Engagement, Marketing and Communications for the Faculty of Science, and I will be your webinar moderator today, so please bear with me. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today. It's an interesting acknowledgement of country now that we have people joining us from all over Australia, all over Victoria, and in fact internationally. So I welcome you all to this Meet Melbourne Science. I'd like to introduce our panel this evening. We have Associate Professor Deb King, who's the Director of the Bachelor of Science that you're going to be hearing all about tonight. We are also joined by our Bachelor of Science students, Caitlin and Mohammed. And in true spirit of this digital world, Caitlin is joining us all the way from warm Brisbane, hence her t-shirt. And Mohammed is joining us from Melbourne, hence his hoodie, because the temperature is definitely a little cooler down here at the moment. I'd also like to mention that these webinars are being recorded and you can access them afterwards. So if we go through something too quickly or you want to check back, you'll have the opportunity to watch them all over again if you so wish, or pass them along to your friends. You can type during the whole webinar tonight, you can type in your questions as we go into the chat box. We have a great team of staff who are there to answer all of your questions as we go through them, and they will send some of them through to me when we get to the Q&A portion of the webinar so that we can ask the questions and answer them for all of you at the same time. If you ask a question too late or an answer doesn't come through, there is a link in the chat to our study page and you can submit an inquiry or a question at any time, and we always encourage you to do it. We have a great team of staff at the University of Melbourne who are really happy to help you navigate your study options. Tonight we will be hearing from Deb with a short presentation about our Bachelor of Science, and then we're going to spend the majority of the time talking with each other and answering your questions and some questions that you've submitted when you registered for the webinar. So I think without much further ado, I might pass over to Deb to kick us off with her presentation.
Thanks, Eddie, and welcome to everybody here this evening. Thanks for joining us for Meet Melbourne Science 2020. As Eddie said, my name's Deb King. I'm the Director of the Bachelor of Science, and it's my role to oversee the curriculum development in the Bachelor of Science as well as the student experience. Now, this is the first webinar we've done like this, and I can tell you, you can see us, I think, but all I can see is my present PowerPoint screen, so I can't see anybody. So if I'm looking in the wrong place, please forgive me because I'm not exactly sure where you are at there, so I can just see my screen. So before we go any further, I'd like to also acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land which our Parkville campus is located on. Of course, I'm not on the Parkville campus today. I'm at my own campus at my home, and I also live on Wurundjeri land. So I'm acknowledging the Wurundjeri people twice this afternoon. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians present here on this webinar this afternoon. So why science at Melbourne? So I'm assuming that all of the people who are interested in the webinar this afternoon are interested because they're thinking about doing a science degree after they finish school. And so we've just wanted to say a couple of words about why the Bachelor of Science at Melbourne is so distinctive. So most of you will have come to some kind of open day or information session already. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is just to highlight a few of the key features, and then that will be a kicking off point for some discussion later or some questions that you might have. So of course, one of the big features of the Bachelor of Science at the University of Melbourne is that we have an extraordinarily diverse range of majors. So currently we have 42 majors in the Bachelor of Science, and I'll give you a bit of a snapshot of what they look like at the moment. So the Bachelor of Science is a 3-year degree, And the majors that we have cover the full spectrum of STEM-M majors. So when I say STEM-M, I mean science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medical pathways. And apart from the STEM-M part of the degree, we also have what we call the breadth component of the degree. And it's in that part of the course that our students develop the really transferable skills that employers are really keen for graduates to have. So it's a really comprehensive group of majors, plus this additional group of subjects that make students really employable when they finish their degree. If you're the sort of student who already knows exactly what you want to do when you come into the Bachelor of Science and when you go out into the workforce, you can do that in the Bachelor of Science at the University of Melbourne. So you can come in and you can build your career from day one. There's no problem with doing that. And as we go further into the year, we'll be announcing the graduate degree packages that we have for next year. There are a number of graduate degree packages that students can enrol in, and that really gives them a guaranteed place into a degree pathway and a postgraduate degree after they finish their degree. So that's for students who really already know what they want to do. For students who aren't quite sure yet what their major area of study is going to be, perfectly fine. So in the Bachelor of Science, we actually encourage students to keep at least 2 majors open until the end of their second year, and use that first 2 years of their degree to really explore their passion and the different areas of science that we have in the degree, because almost all the science that you'll meet in the Bachelor of Science is a little bit different than what you expected it to be coming from school. So whether you're not quite sure what you want to do or you're absolutely sure what you want to do, the Bachelor of Science here at the University of Melbourne will be a place that you can pursue both of those different pathways. Of course, the Melbourne University is known for its world-class research in science and in other things, but in science in particular. And these fantastic scientists that are doing that wonderful research are exactly the people who are going to be teaching you in your Bachelor of Science right from day one. So we've got people doing amazing work out in the field across the world in science, and they also teach into the first year and of course later years into the program. So you'll be meeting them and finding out all about the things that they do from the moment you walk into the degree. Of course, we have fantastic teaching and learning support in the degree too. All of our academics really strive to give students the best possible educational experience we can deliver. And of course, that's been challenging in these times of COVID, where we've had to put our courses online very quickly, but I think we're doing that really well, and the students are highly engaged, and our staff are learning a lot about online teaching during this period as well. Of course, we've got national and international education leaders teaching into the program, and we have many award-winning educators teaching into the Bachelor of Science as well. And now the pane has just gone across that, so let me just move that away for a second. Oops, sorry. We're also linked to industry. Sorry about that. I've just had a bit of a technical glitch. We're also linked to industry, and we have lots of industry links through things like internships. We have a lot of alumnus who are helping us with our program. We have mentoring schemes with our students. We have subjects that are completely focused on allowing students to go out into the workplace and find their feet in industry. So lots of different ways that you can get involved with industry as you go through the Bachelor of Science. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, we have 42 different majors in the Bachelor of Science, and they'll just quickly flick up on the screen right now, and you can see them appearing in front of you. And if you have a quick look through those labels, you can see we've got from A to Z agricultural science all the way through to zoology. So whether you're interested in animals or people, health sciences pathways, machines through engineering, pure sciences through, for example, mathematics or physics, there is something here for everybody in the Bachelor of Science. So it all sounds confusing when you see all those names flip up in front of you, and you might not be quite sure what any of those majors mean. That's perfectly okay. You will get lots of help from the time you walk in the door to find your pathway through the Bachelor of Science. And all of these majors that you can see before you are built on 9 subject sets that start at first year. So the 9 subject sets are these ones, and how you position those subject sets together in your first year will keep different majors open. So we'll help you to choose the subject sets that are appropriate to the pathway that you're interested in. And the more subject sets you choose, the better pathways you can find through the Bachelor of Science, or the more pathways that you can find. So including a lot of diversity in first year keeps the options open through till the end of second year, when you start to think about what major you would like to do. We really encourage students to keep 3 subject sets open in first year so that they've got lots of choice as they go towards the end of their degree. So whether or not you're interested in further study or in the workplace, it all starts with the Bachelor of Science. So if you're thinking about a future in science, you come in, it starts with the undergraduate degree, and we'll equip you with the sorts of transferable skills that will allow you to jump straight into the workplace after the end of your 3 years with us in the Bachelor of Science, if that's what you want to do. So as I mentioned before, these things that we call bread subjects, as well as the subjects that you're doing in science, allow you to develop a whole range of skills like communication skills and teamwork and problem solving that will make you a really sought after graduate when you finish the degree. If you're not quite ready to go to the workplace and you're thinking about going on to graduate study, you'll get all the background knowledge that you need to have through the Bachelor of Science as well. And you can go into graduate study in a whole range of different areas, from science to health pathways to agriculture and veterinary science, engineering. All of these kinds of pathways need you to take certain kinds of prerequisite study when you're in the Bachelor of Science, but other pathways like law don't require any prerequisite study. All they need you to do is have completed an undergraduate degree. So you might want to go into teaching or law or into some kind of business pathway. So all of these things are possible through the Bachelor of Science. So as you can see, it's quite a diverse degree. And we support you right from day one. So as we said, you know, it's a daunting task to go from school to a university for sure, and you've got lots of choices to make as you walk through your degree, but we're here to help you and guide you every step of the way. And there's lots of pathways for you to choose in the Bachelor of Science. You'll have a peer mentor right from day one, and that peer mentor will stay with you through your first semester, giving you the sort of advice that they remember very well from being a first year student themselves. So talking to you about what it's like to be in a lecture and how to study for exams and those kinds of things. Once you get into your second semester, you'll have an academic advisor who will be sort of your guide on the side, if you like. So they'll talk to you about your career aspirations, the sorts of science you're interested in, what sort of jobs might be available to you when you finish your degree, and so on. So you'll have that academic advisor from your second semester all the way through until the end of your degree. So that's a very quick snapshot of what's happening in the Bachelor of Science. I know that you'll have some questions and we'll be able to answer some of them later on in the presentation. And here's a link to a website that you can go to after the presentation if you still have more questions. Okay, back to you.
Thanks so much, Deb. I know every time I hear you talk about the Bachelor of Science, I get really excited and think about going back to study. So I think this is a dangerous career sidetrack for me to have to keep listening to you talk about it. I learn something new every day. So I hope everybody found that informative. I'd like to, the link that Deb just flashed up was to our study page, which is our website that has all the course information. And if you haven't been there, I would definitely encourage you to have a look there. But now let's get into some of your questions. I've been having some already come through, which is amazing as Deb was speaking. But I thought we'd just start off with Caitlin and Mohammed introducing themselves and giving you a little bit of context about their journey to the Bachelor of Science at Melbourne. So we might start off with Caitlin in joining us from not so much sunny, because I think it's dark up there, but definitely warm Brisbane.
Hello, I'm Caitlin. As you can hear, I'm from Brisbane. So I actually did high school in Brisbane and came down to Melbourne for university. back in the old days of 2018. And I'm now a third year student studying Bachelor of Science and majoring in microbiology, which is like bacteria and viruses and stuff. So I've done a lot of sort of biology, and I've also done a lot of other just random stuff. Like I did a history of science subject, some geography. I've really enjoyed sort of doing a bit of everything. That's been really fun. So of course, living away from home means that I'm doing a lot of work, and I actually work a lot on campus through the student union and through the university. So that's been really great fun, getting to see things from behind the scenes, as well as, you know, being on campus all the time. So yeah, that's been really good.
Hey, and Mohammed, sorry.
Yeah. So hey guys, I'm Mohammed, and I'm most definitely studying the Bachelor of Science, and I'm majoring in chemical systems, or what the BSc calls chemical engineering. I actually moved from overseas to study at UniMelb. I'm originally from Abu Dhabi, and I'm in my second year of studies. So I came into university thinking I'm going to be studying chemistry, but then I had a change of heart. I felt like something was missing, and so after a few conversations and a lot of research, I ended up deciding to major in chemical systems and complete the pathway course into a Master of Engineering so I can become a full engineer. But on the side, I'm also studying, I'm completing a breadth sequence in French to complement my degree. And I've always been a person who's interested in research and can definitely see myself in academia in the future. So a very valuable experience that I had was I had the chance to end up to work as a research assistant for a year in the School of Chemistry. And I actually undertook my own project over the summer. Outside the world of science, I volunteer off and on campus. So I'm an Into Science mentor for year 9 students in low socioeconomic regions. And I'm a science peer mentor for first year students. I'm also on the committee for a club at university, and I'm on the coordinator of 2 collectives with the student union. So I generally do a lot of work with enhancing student experience. And most importantly, we're student ambassadors for the Faculty of Science.
Right, you guys are involved in so much. How do you find the time? But that's not the first question. So we're going to start off with one about why how did you end up in the Bachelor of Science at the University of Melbourne? Why did you choose to study science at university?
So I actually didn't really have Melbourne on my radar till about year 12, really. I lived in Brisbane, of course, and I was looking at universities there, but I was also really curious about trying something different. And one of the things which was really a little difficult for me was trying to decide actually what to study, because even though I love science, I'm kind of torn between my love for science, my love for humanities, and so I was really nervous about committing to science early on, or even committing to a double degree where I had to pick 2 overly specific things straight away. So when I heard about the Melbourne model, where you can take a whole bunch of different electives, a whole bunch of different breadth, and you can keep your options really wide until the last moment, that was really appealing to me as an extremely indecisive person. And so I decided to come down to Melbourne, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for me, I'd definitely say the flexibility of the degree. As someone who's doing an engineering major, we don't really have a lot of flexibility around that, but the Bachelor of Science actually does give us the option to take up electives. Like, for example, this semester I'm doing a programming subject. I've always been interested in programming and coding, and so I'm doing one coding subject this semester, and I'm doing a material science subject next semester. And another thing is the breadth, the fact that we can take subjects outside the Faculty of Science. So like I said, I'm doing French, and I've already studied French in high school, so I'm just continuing it because it's one of my passions, let's say. So yeah, these things definitely were appealing to me in choosing Melbourne to study science.
Right, and a follow-on question we had was, what is the difference between studying science at school and studying science at university? Because I know when you're in school and you're thinking about it, you don't know whether it's different, the same? How would you describe your experience, Caitlin?
Well, it was actually quite different for me because, as I said, I'm studying microbiology, so bacteria, viruses, and of course a lot of immunology and all sorts of things about human body. And so you might think, oh wow, she's definitely been interested in biology forever. Well, I actually didn't do any biology in high school, and I was definitely not intending to study biology. I was like, no, I had no idea because I just never studied biology. So my very first semester, I actually decided to take all 4 different science courses so that I could actually, being the indecisive person I am, try and figure out what it was I actually liked. So I feel like that's the great thing about university, is that you can just try so many completely different things, and it can really help you sort of go, oh yeah, you know, I really hate physics, never doing that again, but I really do like biology, so I'll head down that direction. So that's been really good.
Eddie, if I could just add to what Caitlin said, because she makes a really good point. And so when you come into the Bachelor of Science, there are things that are going to be different from the science you do at school. But as Caitlin said, she hadn't done biology before, but she could start doing biology at the university. And lots of students aren't aware of that. They think that they need to have studied the science at school already before they do it at uni. And in our Bachelor of Science, you can start physics from scratch, you can start chemistry from scratch, and you can start biology from scratch as well. So you don't need to have done those at school necessarily before you do them at uni. So that really means that you can explore lots of different areas of science when you come in.
Yeah, and I think the way the subjects are designed means that there are levels for people who have studied it. So you're not, if you haven't done physics, you're not in this, if you haven't done biology, you're not in the same class as someone necessarily who has, so that they're learning at kind of those different paces, and students really are getting what they need. Mohammed, what was the biggest difference for you?
The independence of it. So here at university, the tutorials and tutors are there for your support, but they don't kind of chase up on you like teachers in school do. So that was very different, because it was just like you're kind of on your own. You have to organize yourself and just kind of find the time to devote that time to study. So that was kind of the biggest difference for me.
That's so true. It's hard to sort of you're used to this schedule that someone else puts together, and then you have to kind of figure out your own schedule. It's definitely different, but there is lots of support there at the university if you need it to navigate. We've had a really good question here about subject sets. So on your topic, Deb, that you presented on, it says, how many subjects do you need to choose from? Sorry, I'm going to have to repeat it. How many subjects do you need to choose from each subject set to keep the subject set open? Is it just one? So how does that work when I'm coming into my first year and I'm in my first semester? How am I deciding my subject sets?
So the subject sets generally consist of a pair of subjects, one in first semester and one in second semester. And we like to encourage students to choose 3 subject sets when they come in. But if you don't like one of them, you don't have to do the pair. So you might, for example, do maths and physics and chemistry, and you haven't done chemistry before, so you try that out and you decide you don't really like it. You don't have to do the second semester version of chemistry. You could pick up a different subject there. The number of and design of the subject sets you take depends on the area of interest that you have. So if you're interested more in health sciences pathways, you might be doing chemistry and biology subject sets. If you're interested in engineering, clearly you'll need to do some maths and some engineering subject sets. So the more subject sets you can choose and pair together, the more options it keeps open for you. So, and as I said, we'll give you lots of guidance around that when you come in.
Orientation, we have people with booklets, and they walk you through all of the different components of how to choose subject sets and what it means and what majors it goes through to. So I work that sometimes, as does Deb, so you might even see us if you start with us next year. Should we be able to do it face to face, that is. Hopefully we can. I have a question here directly for Caitlin. So did you stay at a residential college or other accommodation? This student is also from Brisbane and really hoping to study with us next year. So you've got someone in your hometown who's asking a question.
Wow, hello. Well, that's a great question. So I did not study in a resi college when I came down, but I do know people who did. So I will mention a little bit about that. So when I came down, I have some cousins in Melbourne, so I stayed with them for a year. And I now, when I'm in Melbourne, live in a share house. So that's just sort of, it has nothing to do with the university, a sort of private rental agreement with a couple of other people I know. So yeah, it's really different from, you know, living at home, but it's kind of like being in a house with only siblings and no parents sometimes. So maybe not that different. But yeah, so I did stay with family for a little while, but I do know people even from my school in Brisbane who came down, went straight into a share house. I do have a really good friend who went to a residential college, and she's now in her second year and still in a residential college, and she really, really loves that. So yeah, it really just depends on so many things. I think, yeah, you can do every option. Every option is available to you, but I did not stay in a residential college.
Thank you. There's so many options out there, and I think it's really daunting, but it's always good to remember that there's really not a wrong option. You're just picking what fits you and what feels right when you're kind of moving in. Mohammed, I have a question here for you. You mentioned peer mentoring and inter-science mentoring. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that and why you got into it?
Yeah, sure. So into science mentoring, I basically mentor year 9 students whose schools are in low socioeconomic regions. So it's pretty interesting because we promote science for these kids and we give them a snapshot of what studying science is like at university, what kind of career pathways could they choose, just kind of removing that stigma from studying science. And peer mentoring is an initiative by the university that started this year, where students in later stages of their degree mentor first-year students coming to the university for the first time. So we just give them advice on how to navigate student life, tell them about our support services, things that I wish I had known in my first semester at uni. So yeah, it's pretty useful, and I'm pretty glad that I'm doing both of them. Pretty nice
That
experience
leads
as well.
really well on to the next question, because someone has asked, what did you wish you had known when you first came in? So what do you tell the first year students, Mohammed?
Well, I tell my mentees to always stay organized. It is the most crucial thing I can think of. Make use of resources such as Google Calendar or get a planner if that suits you better. But I found that I learned this the hard way, that staying unorganized and not allocating myself some time to study, some time for events, some time to going out is really detrimental to my university life. So that's the best piece of advice I could give anyone who's starting at university. What about you, Caitlin?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I guess there's so many things. I think in a lot of ways, like everyone has things which they wish they'd known, but it's different for every person. So I don't know if this advice will apply to you, but I really wish in my first year I'd spent more time on campus, you know, more time, you know, going to classes that were optional, or, you know, hanging out with friends or joining clubs, or like, it doesn't really matter what I was doing on campus. I just wish I'd spent more time there, because you know, it's a really great community, and you know, now that I've spent more time there, especially working there, it's great to always go around and see new people. And in first year, I didn't really realize how important that was going to be, especially as someone who didn't know a lot of people in Melbourne. So that's what I wish I would have changed in my first year.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people right now, particularly who'd like to be back on campus, but there's lots of ways, and I think it's about that connection with other people. One question here for both Mohammed and Caitlin. They're coming in thick and fast. I can't even keep track. But I think, is it easy to achieve life balance while studying science at Melbourne? So maybe if it was easier, if it wasn't, maybe a little bit of an understanding as to why.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know. It's so different for everyone. I guess for me, because I'm living away from home, I spend a lot of time working and things. So that's kind of probably the other factor that comes in with me. It might be a little different for everyone. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible, you know. it as much possible as it is everywhere. There's so much time in the day which, you know, as soon as you're busy, you have so many things that you really want to be involved in, whether it's classes you love or clubs or jobs that you just think are great or people you want to spend time with. You realize how much time you have in your day that you really weren't using for anything and you don't miss it. But yeah, I mean, it's as well, you know, it's pretty realistic, I think, for a lot of people to say, well, I don't want to study 4 courses every single semester and work full time and, you know, hang out with all my friends. And you can definitely drop to part time, or I do 3/4 times, and full time is like 4 subjects a semester, and I do 3 subjects a semester. But there's so many options, you know. What looks like you know, a perfect balance for someone else might not be the perfect balance for you, but there's a lot of ways to configure things to work it out. Mohammed?
Yeah, I definitely agree, Caitlin. I think it depends on how much commitment and how many things you commit to during semester. If you work your extracurriculars, if you want to volunteer, anything really, it all depends on how many things that you have on your plate and how much time do you have, and just kind of dividing that and understanding how much you can do and understanding when you need to step down or take a break or do part-time, as you said, is definitely very important. So it's definitely achievable to have a work-life, social life balance.
Great. I've got one question for Deb next, which is a little bit of a different strain, but what is the difference between the Bachelor of Science and the Bachelor of Biomedicine? And is there a difference in terms of getting into postgrad medicine? Now, this is a very popular question that we get a lot of, hence everybody's smiling.
So the difference between the Bachelor of Biomedicine and the Bachelor of Science is that the Bachelor of Biomedicine is very focused on medical pathways. So when students go into the Bachelor of Biomedicine, they have a fixed curriculum. So the students come in and they do prescribed subjects. There is some flexibility, but it's quite limited. And you go through the pathway that they define for you, and that's the course. In the Bachelor of Science, every major and pathway that there is in the Bachelor of Biomedicine is also available in the Bachelor of Science, but we also in the Bachelor of Science allow you to not be on a controlled pathway, so you can do all the subjects that you might need to do if you're interested in medical pathways, but you can put them together with other things that you might be interested in. And you can also develop more of the science foundation for your medical pathways. So you can, you know, study more maths if you're interested in that, or you can study more physics or chemistry to supplement the sorts of subjects that you're doing that lead to the medical pathways. But in terms of selection, there is no advantage or disadvantage in terms of selection into medical pathways from one degree to the other. So really it's about the flexibility of subject choices within the Bachelor of Science that makes it different to biomedicine.
Yeah, and I think, oh, go Caitlin.
Sorry, if I could just comment, like I'm studying microbiology, which is obviously very biomedical as a major. I'm studying Bachelor of Science, but it's about a 50-50 split between Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Biomedicine, and there's really no difference to how it operates in class. My biomedicine peers, they know more about biomedicine. My science peers, they know more about different kinds of science, but in the end of the day, we all know the same amount about what we're majoring in. So it's really not much of a difference.
And for lots of the core subjects, sorry, Eddie, for lots of the core subjects that the students do, they're sitting in the same classes together.
Yeah, and I think the key point about your outcomes, because there's a few questions about this, is that if you really already know what you want to study, it's about ensuring that your course is set up in the way that enables you to be eligible for that pathway. And so while the biomedicine course is quite structured, as Deb mentioned, if that works for you as a student, that's a really great positive and a great course to go and follow. But if you want that flexibility or you're not 100% sure, it's just indicating an interest in medicine or physiotherapy or optometry or whatever it might be at the end, indicating that interest and making sure your subjects are structured in a way that makes you eligible at the end. So there's lots and lots of different options. We did have one here about Caitlin's comment earlier about humanities and science. So the student said, Caitlin mentioned she was able to combine her love of humanities and science in her subject selections. I found my passions are similarly split and am also really indecisive. So you've got another kindred spirit. And I'm not sure if this is already mentioned, but I was wondering what subjects allow you to combine your interests? Like, how do you actually find that you're feeding both of those interests within the Bachelor of Science?
That's a great question. There's actually way more than you would expect. So the first one I did, which was very humanities-y, was a history of philosophy of science, which if you're into humanities and you're into science, you will know that just is awesome. So we talked about like physics and metaphysics and Plato and Einstein. It was great. And then I've also done quite a few geography subjects where you'll end up doing like an essay about, you know, all of this like social geography as well. But the other thing that we have is because there's so much breadth in every single degree, there's a bunch of like, they're kind of like uni breadth is like the sort of code, but they don't belong to any single discipline. So I know a lot of people who've done, you know, subjects where it's like 50% science students, 50% art students, and whatever the other degrees are. But they're just completely like everything is mixed in together. So one I'm doing right now is about health inequities, and it's really fascinating. But we talk about, you know, biomedicine is like only one tiny aspect of this whole thing. We talk about economics and politics and history, and it's really great. I love doing those sorts of subjects, and of course mixing with all of my peers in different degrees as well.
And I think Mohammed mentioned as well that he's doing French and mixing it all in together as well. I have a different question for you though, Mohammed. I don't know if anyone can hear my dog barking, but I apologize. She's a little bit restless. What is it like studying a course with so many students?
Wow, that's a bit of a tough question actually. It's a lot of people every day. Like there are some people that I meet that I never see again, and that's completely fine. And some people I just meet in a lecture, click with, we exchange Facebook, and you know, they become my friends. So it's pretty nice. It's a lot of different opinions, a lot of different perspectives on everything. So yeah, I don't know if I answered that question, but that's my answer, I guess.
So
I think it's a tough.
One of the things that happens with lots of students, is that it's the different size classes. So even though some of the subjects are very big, they're often broken down into smaller lecture groups that are still quite big compared to school classrooms. But all your subjects will have small group teaching opportunities as well. So you might be in a, well, I didn't say this at the beginning, but I'm a mathematician and we have a really large enrolment in the math subjects. But each math subject has tutorials, and the tutorials are of size 20. So even though you might be in a subject with lots and lots of different people, you'll be in a tutorial and you'll be with the same 20 students each week for that math subject as you go through. And I can tell you from my experience of being teaching into that tutorial, the way it works is that, you know, everybody comes in on day one and nobody knows anybody, but by week 3, they're coming in together and they're chatting and they're leaving together, so they actually know people. And then once you get to know that, you can think about, well, we'll go to this lecture together, and you can find them in lectures as well. So there are ways to find small groups of friends in a big environment, for sure.
We're coming close to time, so I want to just kind of get through a couple of quick questions. So one of them is, Deb, can I change my subject set midway, or can I change my majors? Like, how flexible is that?
It's very flexible, so there's lots of different, so when you're trying to go towards a major, mostly that won't fill up all of your space in year 1 and year 2. So that's why you've got some space there to choose different subject sets in year 1, and we encourage students to keep at least 2 options and sometimes 3 options open until the end of year 2. Of course, your 3rd year is when you do the major, and I can tell you that students are still sometimes deciding on their major once they've started year 3, because they might, for example, they might have decided, I thought I wanted to do pure maths, but I really want to do applied maths now, or I thought I wanted to do applied maths, but now I want to do physics, or I want to do chemical engineering, but really now I just want to do chemistry. And there's different ways you can move through those majors depending on the background. And if you've always, my advice to students, what I would have wanted to know when I started off in the Bachelor of Science was, where are the right people to talk to give me the advice that I need? And so making sure you ask questions of people who can give you all those options and help you plan by keeping some options open is really important. But it's pretty easy to do, and we had lots of students changing their majors right up until the very last minute. And of course, we've got an app now that helps you explore different options in the degree as well. So that can really be helpful too.
Yeah, and you can get that advice and support from academic mentors, peer mentors, course planning, helpful people, and the Stop One where you can go for advice. So there's lots and lots of people there to help provide it. I have probably two more questions. One is for Deb. Can you get a job at the end of Bachelor of Science, or do you have to keep studying?
Yes, you can get a job, and lots of our students do, and yes, you can keep studying. So you can do both of those things. Our graduates are highly employable, and I don't have the statistics with me, but I think in the International Times rankings, we were something like number 7 for employability. So that means when our students are going out at the end of the Bachelor of Science, they're getting really good jobs. So there's no problem about that at all. If you want to keep studying, of course you can, or you can take a break and come back to do graduate work later if that's what you want to do. We also have a science internship subject at the end of year 3, where if you're interested in a particular area of work but you're not quite sure, you can use that subject to take a semester internship, and you can actually go out into the workplace and see what it's like to work in that area. So that's always a good option for students who aren't quite sure whether they want to stick around for a while a bit longer or whether they want to go out into the workplace.
Yeah, science students are really sought after. The analytical skills that you develop in a science course is really very sought after in lots of different careers and industries, and so that I'm not entirely sure I fully answered that. I have permission to ask one last question, which I'm going to put to Caitlin and Mohammed, and it's really quick summary of what an average day as a Bachelor of Science student looks like. Caitlin, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, because I'm working, I might get up at 4:45 and head off to my lifeguarding job at 5:30 in the morning. A great day. Yeah, I know you feel really jealous of me. And then, I'll do a bit of work, and then I'll have to pop across to uni, and I might meet some people and have lunch and get ready for a practical in the afternoon. And then I'm thinking of my Thursdays earlier in semester, we'd have practicals at 2 o'clock, and then we'd have like this massive 3-hour practical, but you wouldn't even notice because there's just so much going on. Then after that, we'd come out and we'd be like, oh my God, what just happened? And then we'd do like a little bit of a debrief with everyone. Then I'd just head home and have dinner. So that would be like a typical Thursday early in semester.
What about you, Mohammed?
Well, I wake up at 9 a.m. I head out to uni, just do my morning classes because all my classes are in the morning. Then after that, I would probably either just hang out at South Lawn with some friends or go do some work at the student union, do some volunteering there. Then I'd probably have one evening class, just a very random evening class that I go to. Then I'd probably head off to work till about 9 p.m. I'd come back home and get ready for another day.
You guys, I honestly, sometimes I forget. There's so much that you can fit into a day. So I firstly would like to thank all of our panelists, Deb, Caitlin, Mohammed, thank you so much for giving up your time this evening to talk us through. Huge apology to the audience. We have not been able to get to all of your questions. It was a really tight 45 minutes tonight, but as I mentioned, please feel free to submit them as inquiries through the link, the study course pages, and we will get back to you. There's lots of people waiting to answer all of your inquiries, and there's definitely no silly questions. The questions coming through tonight have been really great, so thank you so much for submitting them. Please remember that there are other webinars coming, so this is only the 5th in the series, there's lots more to come. So keep an eye on the Meet Melbourne website, and you can also look at the graduate study webinars that are coming up further down the track if you're already thinking about graduate study, which some of you clearly are. we hope that you've had a good time, and thank you so much for sharing your Wednesday evening with us. And I hope you all have a really nice evening and grab some yummy dinner. So thank you so much, and that's the end for us. Have a good night.